come out like that. It just comes out shaped like that.
Right.
So like seeing it, getting exposed to all of that stuff in an environment where one, there were sometimes people you could ask questions so you get more information. Which,
you
know, is my favorite.
The worker that actually knows
everything,
the section they're working
they're just standing there, just learning, or they're the person who like curates all this stuff,
waiting on nerdy kids like us.
Yes,
to care enough
to ask questions, bro.
Because our parents, one thing that I'll give them, you know, and me and Halia talk about this a lot, is they cultivated an environment where learning is good.
Right.
They cultivated an environment where it made us feel as though, no, you are smart and that is a good thing. Yeah. You're not a nerd. No, you are doing what you're supposed to do,
which is learn about the world.
You're asking, you're curious, and you are retaining the information.
Because to this day, I can't believe Mom let me keep that beetle.
I know.
She bought me a terrarium.
Bro, I was just talking to Mike about that.
She bought me a terrarium and let me keep this this beetle had to be maybe this big.
Yeah, it was massive. Remember the big chompers?
Yes, bro. It was like a... It was
like if you had it in your hand as a kid, it was like almost your whole hand. We were kids. It was giant. Yes. It was a big beetle.
It was humongous.
And she really let you have that thing.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, I guess you can keep it.
And you remember you found that?
Yes.
I thought she bought you that.
No, it was outside on the porch.
That giant thing, you picked it up?
And I put it in a jar. And you know, I was not a bug guy. I didn't like bugs.
I missed all of that.
Yes. It was outside. And I only remember because I saw it and I was like, what in the world is that? And
I thought that I remember the box had a blue top, right?
Yes.
A clear plastic box
and
with a blue top.
Yep.
I thought she just bought that for you. I was like, how come you get a pet? I don't get no pet.
No, I found it, and that's why she let me keep it. And if you remember, right after that, we got a cat.
We did.
Because you complained about not getting a pet.
That's crazy, because I didn't know that. Okay. You killed it, though.
I did.
Because it was alive outside, and then you brought it inside, and it died.
And then it died, yeah.
I mean, you had it for a little bit. It's not like you died.
I did. It was a couple of months.
But
you know that...
Maybe it was finished living, though. It might have lived its life. I don't know.
Maybe. It might have been an old beetle when I found it. But that kind of taught me a lesson about capturing things from nature and putting it in a box so I could look at it. Like, that
Maybe you shouldn't do that, yeah.
Literally, that was what I took from that, because I couldn't figure out how to keep it alive because it didn't seem like it wanted to eat.
Yeah, because you were putting stuff in there.
I was feeding it. I was giving it stuff it was supposed to eat.
You were giving it like sticks with stuff on it too. You were trying all type of stuff.
We got crickets from the fishing shop right up the street. Because they sold bait and stuff, so I bought some crickets and I put them in there. He ate like 1 or 2 of those, and then after about 2 months, he died.
It's so sad.
It is.
I mean, but it's a bug. Like, let's not.
Right, we don't want to carry it.
Let's not belabor it.
I wasn't murdering kittens, okay? But even still, I think a lot of those opportunities that I had as a kid that were just like weird and random, like I look back at that stuff because you learn different kinds of lessons from different kinds of stuff. And the I don't know. I feel like a lot of times it would be nice if more people were more actively contextualizing things for the kids around them. Because I feel like people go through stuff and then they tell me the story and I'm like, it's weird that that's the lesson you took from that experience, because the way that you're telling me that story, that's not the lesson I think I would have taken from that experience.
Isn't that the conversation you and Eric were having on the way to Mom's a couple weeks ago, where all 3 of us will talk about the same day, the same situation,
and all of us get something different from it.
We got something different. We reacted at the time differently.
Yeah.
And we really view it like our mindsets.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting conversation, because like I will look at an objective situation and then Eric was saying like, oh, this is what I think, this is what I would do, this is what I say. And I was just like, man, that never went through my mind. Right. Like I never even...
That's not even tangential to the way that I was viewing that situation.
And it also, we are, I say all the time, we are a factor of our environment, right?
Yeah.
We are conditioned by the things that we see and the way that our brain
interacts with those things.
And, you know, Halia asked me a lot about like addiction, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell her, like, our brains react to things the way that our brains react to it. So some people's reaction to, for example, drugs, their brain will say, I don't like that. Like me.
Yeah.
I don't like the way it smells, or I don't like the way it tastes, or I don't like that. I don't like what it does to you. So that'll make me say, I'm not even going to try it. Where a lot of people, their brain will say, no, I really like that. Give me more of that.
Right.
Like our brains kind of react to, now you have free will, you can make choices, but our brains react to things in front of us, how it reacts. And it's actually a very interesting thing when you start thinking about it.
Yeah, because I mean, physically, your body is just a biological machine. Now there is like a you that is piloting the body in the background, but like, it's just like your car. there is like a range of things you can do to your car
that
where it'll still
control.
work.
Right.
And like the car is trashed. Okay. Like you don't change the oil for years and years and years. The car might still run, but it ain't going to run well. Your gas mileage is going to be trash. So like, it's going to be a whole lot of stuff that goes wrong if you don't actually properly care for the thing the way it's designed to be cared for.
Right.
And I think a lot of times your body is the same way. And the unfortunate thing about living in America is like a lot of our systems are specifically designed so that you don't take care of your body in specific ways.
Yeah.
Your mental health or your physical health, or even
especially your mental health.
Even like socially. I was thinking about the other day how atomized we are societally, and like people come from other places, and like extended family. We're lucky because our extended family is pretty close. Like we know all of our cousins and second cousins on both sides of our family pretty well. Like we talk to them, we interact.
Well, that I think is a regional thing because in the South you have a lot of reunions and stuff like that.
That is true, but even in the South, a lot of people don't get to their extended family like that. Like
what you
they move away.
They're married to them.
That's wild. That's wild. Anyway, I mean, I guess that is a thing.
I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm just playing with y'all, Alabama. Don't play.
Why are you calling out my name? You wild. Right. Anyway, like the what you see on TV, what a lot of people kind of receive from Hollywood, and what seems to be pushed is no, it's mom, dad, and kids. And like, that's really the family. When like historically, universally, every other country, that is not how they operate.
Right.
You can't really run a community if you're just doing mom, dad, and kids.
Right. Because that's where the saying, it takes a village.
It takes a village because it literally takes a village of people all cooperating together to actually raise functional, cooperative.
But I think
societally,
before we get back to another
viable
core memory,
human beings.
I have another core memory to talk about.
Oh, snap.
I think that it does kind of, like you were saying, being atomized, it does help the system if you separate us out. All of us have to pay for everything individually.
Yeah.
Like there is no collective, right?
Yeah. And I think it makes it easier to control.
Right.
It feels like it always comes back to money and control with a lot of this nonsense. Yeah. But anyway, you said you had a core memory.
Yeah. I have another one. Now, every core memory at mom's house, I have one that also connects us back to dad's house. But,
because you're even-handed in your memory making?
I try to be. Even-handedness is going to be a huge part of who I am for the rest of my life. But you remember? Do you remember that convenience store next door to mom's house?
Yes, I do. That had the video game in it that I would
play. The Bomber Jack?
Yes.
So our mom lived. This is a different house. This isn't.
Nope, it was a greenhouse.
No, it was the greenhouse. It was the greenhouse. So mom, we call it the greenhouse. The house was green. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But basically, our mom lived in this house, right? It was a great time there. You remember the black and white TV on the floor?
Yes, I do.
Remember that was the biggest TV in the house.
Yes, the big wooden one.
Yes, and it would just sit there.
And we had to go and change it. Literally,
you had to change the remote.
So you got to walk up to the bad boy, and there's a dial on it.
You remember there was only like 8 channels.
Yes.
Like the other TV in the living room was color, but it didn't. It had all the stations, but it was smaller.
Yes.
And if mom wanted to watch that TV, you wanted black and white TV.
Correct.
But anyway,
you had it was like 5, 10, 13. And 27.
That was
33.
Right. And maybe 43.
And maybe
remember 43. Fox was 43.
Yeah.
So anyway, God, we're old.
We are. Because kids now don't know what the basic TV stations are. Nobody uses them.
It's the fact that we even remember that is crazy. Anyway.
They haven't changed.
When we were kids.
They're just digital.
Mom lived in this greenhouse. And next door, literally next door, like not like down the street, but next door, there was a little tiny convenience store. It was like it wasn't like 7-Eleven though.
Nah.
It was smaller than that. It was like half of a 7-Eleven.
If you've ever been to like any of those country gas station type stores, they sell bait and they sell like gas station food.
They sell sandwiches and they sell, you can get you some oil.
It's like a bodega.
Kind of like a bodega.
It's kind of like a bodega.
But a country version.
Yeah.
So like you could go in there and get you a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel that's cooked and on a warmer.
And they be good too.
But you can also go in there and buy beers and, all the normal stuff. So mom used to let us walk over there whenever, right? And we just, all you had to do is walk right up to the street. There was a line of trees that was almost like a fence on mom's house.
And you could just walk
that went all the way up to the street. So you had to walk up mom's driveway to the street and then go right back, basically next door, right there. And we would go in that convenience store. They had a free arcade game in there
called Bomber Jack,
and we used to just go in there and we would just play it. And it was like a one button with a directional thing. Yes. I don't remember much.
It's a very old game, And literally, because I think the way it worked is you like ran around and you plant the bombs and then the thing was chasing you.
Yeah, you were trying to blow it up or something.
Something like that.
But we would do that, and I you know, Mr. Nostalgia, okay? I remember I used to go in there and I would always get a fudge round. That was my snack of choice. And if it wasn't a fudge round, like if we weren't going sugar, I'm talking goldfish. But other than that,
I feel like I always got like chips or something.
I remember they had those granola, chocolate chip granola bars, the off-brand ones.
Yeah.
But the soft ones though.
Yes.
So
and they would be so good. And he would sell them for like 5 cents or
5
cents. It was like super cheap.
And now it's time to do shout outs to Dad.
Hey.
So along with Dad taking us out all the time, we would go back to Dad's house. Even when we moved in with Dad, we were living with Dad. We would go to Mom's house. We'd still go here. Dad would hook a brother up with his allowance
every time.
You remember the allowance?
$20.
Yeah, that's right. $20.
Which was a whole lot of money back then.
And so you go to this convenience store where they selling fudge rounds for $0.25, and you got a $20 bill in your pocket.
You feel rich, bro.
Let me tell you something. Hood rich ain't the word. Because you know I like to say, this is when I learned how to start saving back then. Because I remember that time that Dad gave me my allowance, but I didn't touch the allowance from before.
And you was so just like, I got twice as much money now.
I am a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old with $40, bro.
You got to understand.
Let me tell you something. I could have paid Mom's rent that day.
I never had this experience. So I learned the exact opposite lesson. I was like, no, what? I don't want to keep this. I want to spend this.
No.
Like, there's stuff I want.
Because the thing about me was, you know, our parents went through a tough time.
Yeah.
After the separation and stuff. And they made through. You know, they're fine. Yeah. But, like, they went through a tough time. They did. And we saw it, kind of. When they were together, we found out later that they were actually really poor. We didn't even know that.
Right.
Well, I didn't know that.
I was going to say, I knew.
He might have known that.
I knew
that. But I didn't know that they were poor until they separated. But, like, seeing how hard they had it, I always said, like, when I get older, I don't want to struggle like this. I know that they want better for me, and I want better for me. That was always, like, my thing, because I saw them struggle. I saw Dad say, no, I got to make this money. He joined the military.
Yeah.
He did the police academy. Like, Dad was doing what he had to do. Like, Mom was doing medical stuff, working at office manager here, and then she was when she moved. Then she moved to Hampton and all that. Like, but I saw them, you know, going through their 30s, going through their 40s. All right, now we're financially stable.
Right.
The stuff that they could have done in their 20s, but they weren't in that position to do it.
Yeah.
I always said, like, I know that that's what they want for us. So that's where that savings started for me. So I distinctly remember us going over to that convenience store nonstop.
Listen, I think about that convenience store a lot, because a lot of times, like now, I think back to that greenhouse and like us walking over there, because I specifically remember us walking over there. We played Bomber Jack for a little while. We bought our snack or whatever, and we came back to the house. Yeah. And we would come back to the house and I would draw, or like at one point we got that computer over there, and that's when I started learning how to produce music, because we got that computer, I think, from Mr. Joey.
Yeah. I think he was doing music at the time.
He was doing music, but like it was his old computer or whatever, and it was there, and I was like, well, what is FL Studios? And I opened it,
remember that.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I started playing around with it, and I started making music. And like, that was the first time I had ever even thought about producing music. And I was like, oh no, this is what I really want to do. This is it.
That house is where I started learning how to cook.
Really?
Yes. Because Mom used to cook. I remember one time Mom burned some rice, and it wasn't even that bad. Mom was so
distraught about it.
Like, it was almost like she felt like she disappointed us the way she was. I remember I still hear it. She yelled out, "Hey!" And she said it, and I felt so bad. Like, I still feel bad just saying that out loud, because Mom was doing something else for us, but she was also cooking. And she burned her rice. And Mom was so like,
she was distraught about it, because she was like, now you got.
I remember her eating it. We was at the table, we're eating. She's like, oh. And she just kept, I just burned all this rice. I can't believe I burned this rice. And I, like, for me,
you was like, it's not even that big deal.
I was like, if I knew how to cook,
then
I would have helped her not burn this rice. And from there, that's when I started asking her, Mom, how'd you do that? Mom, how do you make this meatloaf? How do you make rice? What do you do with the canned vegetable? Like, you remember, I was like 8.
Yeah.
So, but that is where I started asking her, what goes in mashed potatoes? What goes like in the pot when you're trying to make stew? Like, So the reason why I cook so much now
is because you
started in a lot of ways in that house. Also in Virginia Beach, because
when we
got there, it was a culture shock. We was like, wait a minute,
we cooking
now.
all the time?
All the time? Like, you sure you don't want to just cook it all and clean it all? Like,
it was kind of a
she was like, no, come on. I remember she taught me how to cook eggs.
I remember that too, actually.
And she's like, come on in here. You like eggs, don't you? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, don't you think you need to know how to make them? And I was like,
I mean,
I guess when you put it like that, like,
right?
Sure. And she was like, okay. And so mom cooked. So our mother, even now, I remember we went to her house a couple months on Mother's Day, and she was like, oh no, I'll get your plate.
And we was like, what are you doing? Why?
Because Helene would clean up after me, but like we grew up with our dad and our stepmother, right? And they taught us the importance of self-sufficiency, right? Where I think mom has more of that thought process of, no, these are my boys and I need to take care of my boys. They were thinking, nobody's going to take care of you when you get older. And I think that those two were a good balance that we really needed, because the nurturing piece of mom saying, no, I got it. You relax. Let me take care of you,
because you come to appreciate that sometimes that is the energy required in a situation. It shouldn't always be that way, but like there's a lot of times where Justice feels bad because I'm taking care of her, or vice versa, to be completely fair.
Right? Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You are sick today. Like
sometimes I need to be the one saying, no, let me do it.
Right? Like you need to let me handle this, because you are not in a position to handle this. And when the time comes where you're good and you can handle it, take it back. I don't want to do it. I'll let you cook. I know you like to cook. You have a specific way you want to do it. But like, if you're not in the position to do that, no, let me take care of it, because I'm capable. I can do it.
Right.
But we just have affinities for certain things. So if like, I think being capable is different than like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. So
yeah,
she
just
has
throw
to
your hands up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there was always a value put on, hey, listen, like you don't necessarily have to do this. You don't have to like doing it, but you need to know how to do it. Right. So if you're ever in a situation where there is nobody else there, which always happens when we was in college, like, bro, you had to figure out how to make your own struggle meals.
So that was
able to cook.
That was the thing me and Halia talk about, where she's like, so our childhoods were different.
Yeah.
And so in her childhood, she didn't have to cook much. Just wasn't a thing.
Can't even fathom it.
Right. And well, if we would have stayed with mom the entire time, we probably wouldn't know how to cook.
Here's the wild thing. I don't even think that's true, because Jacob can cook.
Jacob didn't live with mom though. Well, grandma cooks.
I was about to say he would
have learned how to cook. But the thing is, I know I wouldn't cook as well if I wasn't in the situation that I was in. But like, so what we talk about, me and Halia talk about, is specifically, hey, I don't think that our kids should have to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, when I was a kid, I had to do X, Y, Z. Okay, so maybe we take the X off and leave the Y and Z, because the Y and Z might be necessary for them to learn. And she's like, no, I think we should do that because they're kids. They should relax. And I'm like, our parents, I've been saying this a lot lately. Our parents were hard on us because life is hard. And I think part of that hard might have been too far. I say that all the time. I told dad that. Too far.
Too much.
But a lot of that, I think, now that I'm looking back, at the time we didn't like it, but now that I'm looking back, I'm like yesterday I sent that picture to the group chat of me cleaning the fridge. When we were kids, we had to clean the fridge every Friday. We take all the food out, take the shelves out, wash the shelves, put the shelves back, put the food back. Throw away the food that's bad, right? Because, yes, things spill in the fridge. And I remember they used to say, you don't see this on the shelf? And I was like, yes. You don't think we should wipe that off? I guess we should. But Halia doesn't do that. Now, she'll wipe the shelf off, but she doesn't take the shelves out, put them in the sink, and wash them, because growing up, she didn't have to do that.
Right.
I'm not saying that as a criticism. What I'm saying is the values that you gain as a kid, I think,
stick with you.
They really stick with you, because there's stuff that she does that I never considered important until I met her.
Well, and that's why I think your point is well taken. I think that there are probably things that are values that I have